Hello and welcome to episode 33 of Retro Recall the PS1 Chronicles, a show where we play and rank every PlayStation game ever created. My name is Jimmy, and as always, I'm here with Mike.
Hello. So today's a little bit different. We typically will communicate back and forth, or we pick back and forth on what the game is. For this week, we actually started a new show. It's a little mini show. You can only catch it on YouTube Shorts if you want to check it out. But we rank and kind of poke fun at game cover designs. This game came up as one of the episodes, and immediately upon finishing that episode, we thought this cover looked really awesome and wanted to play the game. So it was just a weird, unique way to discover a game and want to play it.
Right after we finished it, I looked up gameplay and I was like, we should play this. This looks pretty sick.
It does. And on the contrary, we have game covers that we've done that we're regretting or we're not looking forward to playing in the future. So that's fun.
I would say it's almost exclusively that one because, we're clearly picking ones that are either bad or funny or just strange in some way so that we can kind of make fun of them.
Yes.
So honestly, whenever you came with this one, I was like, wow, all right, this just looks like a good game.
Yep.
And that's not really why we're doing this. So
yeah, well, I mean, I saw it. I'm like, we could talk about this, but I genuinely want to look into this and actually play this because of how this looks. And the whole concept of the show is like, would we buy this game if we saw the cover on the shelf in the store?
Yeah, I mean, 80s and 90s, the design of game covers was definitely inconsistent, to say the least. I mean, there's plenty of like really popular examples, like Mega Man. The first cover looks super weird.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that one. Yeah.
I think I can picture it in my head.
But yeah, I mean, they just didn't really know what they were doing yet. And like, not to say now times are even better. I would say in modern gaming, covers are mostly just pretty boring.
For the most part, I think, but there are games where they understand that that's the selling point. But then again, we don't have physical media anymore. So the game covers aren't really that important as they used to be.
True, but think of a game cover in the way that you would look at the image in your Steam library or, the block on your PS5 when you're launching a game. You know what I mean? That's essentially the game cover anyway.
That is true. Yeah, you have a good point. Yeah, I think it just shifted since the PlayStation 1 period.
Yeah, I would say right around the 360 era is probably when we got into the way that modern games look, where it's, here's the main character of the game. Here's the logo. There's there's not like a chance that was taken, or like, not to say even most of the ones that we see for PS1 are good, but at least they're doing something with it that could be weird, could be interesting. It's not safe.
Yeah, I get that completely. So that's why we started doing the show. We figure we're going to be playing all these games anyways. Why not just judge the covers too? It's fun. We've been having a fun time with it. We have literally a minute to get through and make these jokes and finish up with the score. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's all on the spot. It's, it's racing to get all your thoughts out in a minute. It's fun. I'm having a good time doing them. They're easy, You don't have to play a game and talk about it for an hour. Before we hop in then, this is a flight combat game, essentially, which we've played a good bit of on this show already.
Yes.
How are you feeling about the genre so far?
So on the cover that we were reviewing, it literally says at the top of the thing, I think it says like flight combat or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So we very much knew what we were getting into going into this game. I was a little pessimistic going into it because we've had Invasion from Beyond, Magic Carpet, and it's just like experiencing that. I'm like, I feel like we're not going to have fun on this, but the cover looks cool. The game snippets that we saw, like the screenshots, look cool. Maybe this one will be different. I mean, we did have fun with Einhander. That one was
true, but that was a different style as opposed to these. Either way, I just, I was kind of wanted to get a check-in from you where it's like, there's certain genres that we're going to see a lot of on the PS1, right? This is one of them. Platformers, sports games, run and gun action games. Like there's a lot of that stuff on the PS1.
To put it easy, I wasn't confident in this game.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, if we don't like this genre, then we're just screwed because we're going to be playing dozens of games just like this.
I'm fine with the genre. I just feel like we've already experienced with two other games before that this is such an early stage in gaming that this genre isn't very well defined yet.
You may be right, but I don't know. Let's just get into this game because I don't want to say too much.
Okay.
Vanark was released on April 10th, 2000. It was developed by BitTown and published by Asmik Ace and Jalico.
Yeah.
And like we said, what's funny?
I'll get to it. Go ahead and finish up.
Okay. It's a flight combat game, like we said, but it has these tank control story sequences in between the levels, which we will talk about. But what were you going to say?
It's just funny to me. I looked up, as I usually do, try to do a little bit of research on these games after the fact of playing. And if you go to the Wikipedia page for this game, it is sad how much information isn't there.
It's a barren wasteland.
It is pretty much what Jimmy just said in the very beginning of this is the entire Wikipedia article.
I did find the manual, and I looked at that a little bit.
Yes.
That was pretty easy to find.
Yeah. I'm surprised. Anyone out there who's like actively publishing these game cover designs, like the cover art and the manuals this late after PlayStation 1 are like, you're doing hero work because it's so niche and so something that most people would never want to look for, but it's been so handy for us.
I didn't really get anything that I needed out of it. Like, I just kind of wanted to look at it to see what was in there. But essentially, I downloaded it because I wanted to see if there was a way to heal in the middle of a level.
I was just going to bring that up to you too.
And yeah, there's not. So
yeah, the answer is no. There is no way to heal.
But yeah, I mean, just to start us off, my first impression of this game is they really like Star Wars and Star Fox.
I was hoping you were going to make that because I'm like, towards the end, I'm thinking this feels a lot like Star Wars. I mean, the Star Fox thing immediately jumps out the gate. Like, this is exactly what Star Fox is. I feel like this came out before, though, right? Well, the Star Fox 64, sorry.
Star Fox 64 came out years before this.
Oh, okay. I didn't look into those numbers.
Yeah, Star Fox 64 was an early N64 game, and this was a later PS1 game. So regardless, I mean, like we said, there's so many of these games, you can't directly compare. But for me, where the comparison is in the vibe of it, in the music, and the way that it's presented.
Mm-hmm.
That, to me, feels very Star Fox. And as far as Star Wars, the music sounds like Star Wars as well.
Yes.
And then obviously the text scroll is Star Wars.
The text scroll, and then we'll get into the levels later, but there are very much side-by-side comparisons to Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I guess to start off, the story is something about Mars. Did you get the story at all?
A very general summary, I would say, and this is probably wrong, but what I gathered was on Mars, there's these scientists doing some weird shit with like a chemical or something, and it's making these creatures appear on Mars, like dinosaurs and all kinds of monsters.
Yeah.
And then there's also aliens that are trying to replace humanity and destroy everything, right?
See, that's the part I got. I think the scientists created the aliens, or they're trying to make a new species.
Yeah. Like they're trying to like create a better version of humans to like live in space, I think.
Yeah, that can live in a vacuum.
Overall, the story is just whatever. Like I don't think it matters.
It doesn't, for reasons we'll get into. But the reason why I didn't really understand the story that much was because the way that it's presented to us. There's no voice dialogue or voice acting. Not a bad thing. I mean, some games don't have that. But it's this fast-paced text at the bottom of the screen that is broken up in weird ways that it was hard for me to understand what I was reading at all times.
Yeah, it breaks up like mid-sentence.
Yeah, so for example, it'd be like, oh, and today we are going to the store to buy this and like those pauses in between just hurt my brain that I'm like trying to put together the sentences to make it make sense.
Overall, I mean, the production value is just pretty low for all of the story stuff. And I think that if it had voice acting, this game might be raised a whole point for me.
I would agree. And the opening cinematics and the cinematics throughout the game, I think, are pretty impressive.
No, I think they look great. And even to go farther with that, the graphics of the actual game are really good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I could agree with that. It's just the inside when you're not in the mission isn't that great.
I don't mind the pre-rendered backgrounds, but the character models look a little wonky for some reason.
A little bit. It's like they were trying to go with realism and it just hurt them in the end.
I don't know. It's just like Resident Evil came out like 5 years before this, Silent
Yeah.
Hill, all these games that do the pre-rendered backgrounds thing. You can just have a little bit more detail to your characters. And like, I like the characters in this game too. Like, they're all good characters. They all have personalities and they have things that happen to them throughout the game. So like, to have them look a little more defined, I think would have went a long way.
I could get that. I honestly thought, we'll get into the why later, but I feel like the cinematics took up most of their budget.
Yeah, I feel like they made like a prototype of the game, right? Finished the first batch of levels, made all the cutscenes, and then were like, shit.
Yeah, well, we need to finish this game. Because like with how detailed the cinematics are, it's, like I said, beyond impressive. I think probably some of the better ones that we've seen so far in this show, which is why I have a hunch that they kind of wasted a lot more money than they needed to on those. Yeah,
and I mean, this is also a publisher and developer that we both are not familiar with. So there's also that. It's not Capcom, Konami, it's not a big name. So it makes sense why the budget was a little lower. They shot high and it didn't pay off, which is fine, but you can see how good this game would have been if they just had a little more time and a little more money, I think.
Oh, I completely agree. Let's say, because we don't know for sure, let's say they did scale back on the cinematics and what they put into that and put that money into the actual game. I think, as you said, it could go up a whole 1 or 2 points just because of that.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting because, like, even on the Wikipedia, there's no link for these people and like what other projects they've done. And just while you were going through that and looking it up, I just did a really quick search on BitTown to see what else they've done. And it looks like they mainly just do these flight combat games. So this is just their genre that they like to do.
Yeah, and just to get us started with the gameplay, I think the flight combat parts, like the actual gameplay, is very well done.
For the most part. Did you find it troubling to maneuver around obstacles because of the way the angle was?
Sometimes. So specifically the later levels, there's the one in the lava and then there's the final level where there's a lot of environmental stuff you have to avoid. And it was very hard.
Mm-hmm. Especially in earlier levels. I thought it was the type of game where they kind of gave you freedom to go farther left and farther right in the game. So there's several times I've just collided into a cliff because I thought I could go around it. And then I hit an invisible wall and slammed into the cliff because of it. Which is weird because then later in the game, you do have the freedom to fly wherever you want. So it's like this weird, why are you putting me on rails in the beginning of the game and then taking the rails away in the later part?
Yeah, I mean, it's literally Star Fox. That's what they do too. There's like a part in the level that is free roam where the rest of it's on rails.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, I beat this game in a little over 2 hours.
Oh, okay. So you texted me and you said, I just beat the game, by the way. And I responded, I would be shocked if you didn't, because this game is, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? It's too short. I beat the game in about an hour and 20 minutes, I would say.
How did you beat it faster than me?
I don't know. That's why I'm surprised it took you over 2 hours.
I guess there's a first time for everything, huh?
And that's an estimate. I mean, I'm not counting like the cutscenes and just sitting around waiting to play the game.
Oh, whenever I say my time, that's just like me right-clicking on my capture.
Oh, yeah. If we're going by capture time, is like an hour 45.
Yeah, mine's like 2 hours, 10 minutes. But like, still, I mean, hey, just last week we saw I got so much farther than you in Persona, and then you beat this game faster than me. So,
And it's the weirdest thing because I'm playing, I'm like, okay, I'm getting into this a little bit. It's a little rough to say the least, but it's fun. And then I'm on like, what, the 4th or 5th chapter, and it's like, oh, we're going into the final battle. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I just started playing this game.
I'm so torn on it because I think this game could have been a little bit longer, like a little bit. But I think that if it was way longer, then it would have got really old really fast.
I could agree. But they also kind of hint towards it too while you're playing, because you meet this new character immediately that joins your roster. And then right after that, you meet another new character immediately. So like you already filled out the entire roster of your people within the span of what, 2 missions, 3 missions?
Yeah, I mean, It does kind of signal that, huh? But I also feel like there should have been maybe a few levels in between those. Because, like, once you hit a certain point, you can feel the momentum of you getting towards the end for sure.
Right.
Even before they say it's the final battle, you can tell you're getting deep into this.
Yes.
So if they just had a little bit more in the beginning, I think it would have went a long way. Even if there was just a few more shorter levels, because there's technically 7 levels in the game, but some of those later ones are really short.
Yeah, I didn't really look at my capture, but I feel like the last 2 levels are split up into like a bunch of mini stuff you got to do, and then it goes into the main shooting level after that.
Yeah, it's like you're doing a little thing and then it counts that as a level. Then you're doing a boss and that's a separate level for some reason when the game didn't do that the whole time anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the logic there.
So earlier on in the beginning, you said that we get to explore the ship. It's more like a tank control, and that's where all your story comes from outside of the fighting. What was your thoughts on that?
It was mostly just pointless, if we're being honest.
Mm-hmm. It was.
If there was something to do, anything, like even if it's just exploring a little bit, or if it's like optional dialogue or anything at all, not just like the game tells you what to do, you walk there and do it, then you walk back and you start the next mission. That's it.
Now, when we were looking at the screenshots for this game, the big selling point for me was we saw the shooting part, and we also saw a guy standing in like a locker room and stuff. In my head, I'm like, sweet, we get like this whole story thing, kind of like a Resident Evil almost, but then we have like the shooting side of it too. So it's a very, you're combining these two things into one game, and I love that. And quickly upon playing it, you realize that, like you said, you never need to go to those areas at all. There's no point. There's nothing to find. It's just to go there for a few minutes just to talk to someone and then continue on with the game.
There's cool areas too, like the lounge when you go in there and there's the fish tank and there's like the cool music. I was like, is something going to happen in here? Or like, are we going to like have some Persona style dialogue stuff happening in here?
Yep.
Anything at all? And there's just no reason to ever go in there.
I loved that like jazz piano song when you went into the lounge. The music is way too good for this game. I even went and listened to the entire soundtrack, and it's very good.
I will say, after the first few levels, I had to turn down the sound effects so I could actually hear the music.
Yep, I did too.
They're so fucking loud.
It was to the point where I would just stop shooting. Because like, just like with Einhander and all those other games that we played, you just hold the shoot button the entire time. But whenever I was like, oh, I haven't seen an enemy for a while, I just let go of the shoot button just because I wanted to listen to the music more. But yeah, I agree. The sound effects way too loud. Could have been turned down a little bit by default.
Yeah, but I mean, back to the story stuff. I just think that there should have been some sort of maybe, even if it was just dialogue that was flavor text, even if it was just that, or if it was even crazier, like dialogue choices or like getting to know the characters more in any way, there could have been something to flesh it out, to build the world a little more. And that's all that it would have needed.
I agree. Because with how short this game is, you were saying how you like the characters, but I felt like exactly like what you said. We needed more information to care about the characters, I felt like, because it just seems so flat in a sense of, but they're trying to rush the story along between these characters of, oh, I'm this person, I do this, and I'm really good at doing this. And it just, by the time the ending hits, nothing really matters because I just didn't feel that connection with any of them.
Yeah, I mean, like when the robot dies at the end and it's like this really sad moment, and I'm just like, yeah, I mean, he was with me the whole game, but it's only been an hour.
You never interact with him, really. Like you have those few cutscenes where he talks to you, but there's no bond there. He just follows you around. So whenever that death happened, I'm like, okay, you're cool, I guess. Thank you for sacrificing yourself, but I don't care really.
Yeah, I mean, I thought things were going to get interesting whenever you find out that the one character used to work for the evil corporation that you're fighting.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is going to get good. Maybe like something interesting will happen. And then they're just like, anyway, on to the next mission.
Yeah, this is so weird too. So the first person you get into your roster as well is that girl. I forget what her name is. Dio?
Is it Lynn?
Lynn's the one who used to work for the scientists.
Yeah. Okay.
I think Dio is the girl. So when we first meet her, it's like, oh, but I got some bad news to tell you. She used to work for a terrorist organization. I'm like, oh, okay. We're getting some story in here. Like, are we going to be allowed to trust her? Do we not trust her? And so you go talk to her and she's like, oh yeah, so I guess you want to know why. And your character says, well, yes, but not right now. We got to go on to the next mission. I'm like, you're building story. Why are you saying no? You don't want to hear the explanation, which I don't think we ever get back to that, and we never find out.
The way this plays out is like someone's writing a story, right? Like I'm writing a story for something. I have my bullet points of things that are going to happen in the story, and now I'm done. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like that's what it feels like to me. It's like there's nothing elaborating. There's the slightest backstory whenever the commander's talking or whenever like the crawl before each mission. I just don't know. Like this game could have been padded out with story stuff and it would have been better for it.
I 100% agree. The fact that the story was just sacrificed to just move on to the next shooting part, it hurts it so much.
Well, even to go farther than that, like there's the 2 mini games that you do throughout the story. So there's the first one, which we'll talk about both of these, but just to make my point, there's the first one where you're moving the ball around. And there's the second one where you go into that ship that's like destroyed or whatever, try and look for stuff.
Yeah.
Why isn't there a bunch of more stuff like that?
Mm-hmm.
It's just basically nothing. Like it's not like it's some big budget thing that's going on. It's just another little bullshit thing that you do. So like more story, more stuff like that. This would have felt like a full experience. Like this could have been like one of those games that you feel like you're playing like an anime or something, you know?
Exactly. And that's what we thought just by looking at the cover art, that this would be like an anime style game.
I mean, this could be fucking Zone of the Enders, you know what I mean? This could be that sick, like that kind of thing.
Yep. And it's so weird too, because we complain on other games about the padding and how much there is that it just drags on. Where in this is the opposite, where we need more padding. Like we need that extra stuff. And it's the weirdest game to like say that about.
I just feel like if they were going to go this route, they should have just cut all the story stuff altogether and just had cutscenes between the levels, because then it at least would have felt like nothing was missing. But to go through all the effort to do all this and then not utilize it in any way just feels stupid.
Mm-hmm. I mean, even in other games, I was talking about how it feels like they had one idea or like 3 ideas and they tried to make an entire game out of this. With this one, it feels like they had this huge story in mind and they just ran out of time to make the game and they just finished up what they could. Like that's truly what it feels like.
No, I mean, I agree with you. And like you said, it's weird to say I wish there was more padding, but it would have made this game a lot more enjoyable for me.
Yeah, like walking around the ship whenever, like I just want there to be more stuff. Maybe you find some stuff or there's items you could get or health packs maybe that you can use in the fights. Like make the exploring worth it. Because for the final part where you have to find Lynn, it's like, oh, we need to find Lynn somewhere on the ship. It's obviously the one floor you weren't allowed to go to the entire game. And you go to the elevator, it's like, oh, now the floor's open. Oh, I wonder where Lynn could be.
I will say I went to the women's locker room first before I went there.
I did too.
Okay. No, I mean, it makes sense. And you go up there and you have the cutscene and then it's over. It's not even like you get to look around or anything, which would have been cool because it's clearly like you're up above Earth.
Yeah. It's just the aesthetic behind this entire game is nice and everything looks good, but nothing is ever utilized.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Like, I love the vibe and I love what they're doing. And if they just went a little bit farther with it, like, I could see us giving this game a really high rating if they had that stuff in this game.
Yep. Which, not to get too much into it, but the ending, like the very end after the credits, they hint towards a sequel. And I looked and it was never made. And I feel like if they did make a sequel and put more time and effort into it, that would have been a better version of this game.
A sequel to this on like the PS2 probably would have been insane. But yeah, I mean, we've talked about this story stuff long enough. Those 2 mini games I was talking about, like, I'm not going to lie to you. I used save states to beat the ball one.
I was going to ask you how long it took you to get through it.
So I didn't like save before I did that. So to reload, I would have had to play the level before that again.
Yeah.
It still took me a while. I was like saving and loading a bunch of times.
Do you want to take a guess at how long it took me before I got through that game or through that level?
Half an hour.
No, I blew up in 2 seconds and moved on with the game.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I blew up immediately because the controls suck. And then the game moves on. It keeps going. You just like, you lose all of your upgrades you got to that point, which sucks.
Yeah, I was not expecting the momentum of the ball. So I start moving down. I'm like, okay, moving slow. So I'm holding down. And then I let go of the down button and it keeps rolling. I'm like, what the hell? There's nothing said about momentum in this.
Honestly, I wouldn't even be opposed to you showing this in the episode because, like, using save states to beat this was still so hard.
Oh, I could imagine. And it looks so simple.
It reminded me of that shit in Power Shovel.
Oh, yeah. The only point of this minigame, because we never really said why, was your fourth person you get has, a bomb on him or something?
The enemy, like, rigged up a bomb to, like, his brain or something. So, like, when you wake him up, like, it's about to go off and you have to defuse it.
Yeah. So you got to go through this maze to defuse it. And if you get through it, nothing really happens. You just defuse the bomb. If you don't get through it and it blows up like it did for me, you still move on. You don't die, but you lose a lot of items.
And to be honest with you, I mostly just used some of the earlier weapons the whole game anyway.
I was going to ask you about that.
But before we get into that, the other mini game, if you even want to call it that, you're like, you get a distress signal from another ship and you go to explore it. And there's a timer on the top of the screen, but like there's like 3 rooms you can go to. So like you just do that and it's over.
Yep. So it was funny for me because like they're talking about this extra ship and whatnot. I looked away from the screen for 1 second and I come back to the screen and I'm on this new ship with a timer and I'm like, I don't know what's happening. I just missed so much dialogue by looking away from the screen. So I just started exploring and I wasn't really sure what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of just whatever. Like you get some extra weapons, but it doesn't really mean anything.
Nothing means anything in this game.
Literally, I used like the same lasers and the same like special weapon the whole time.
Oh, okay. Which one do you know what they were called off the top of your head?
I just used whatever the strongest laser that I could use for the main weapon that would fire continuously and it wouldn't stop. Because some of them you have to like hold and let go, or some of them you have to like push X continuously.
Oh, okay. The main center weapon, I use the homing missile thing that can lock onto 4 enemies, which is like one of the early weapons.
Oh, for that weapon, I used the one that has the powerful lasers that can lock onto 2.
Oh, okay. Which, one big thing, I love how each weapon that you can choose from, it gives you a nice graph of their power and their speed and all that stuff. A very simple feature that a lot of games seem to not do, but I'm so glad they had it on here.
No, I mean, a lot of games we played, you can't even tell what's what, and you have to like back in and out of menus. And this one, all of it's right there. And you also pick a wingman before each level as well.
Now, is there any difference between which one you pick?
So I was a little confused about this because sometimes you have to like pick a path to go down. And I'm pretty sure if you pick a certain character, they'll tell you which way is the right way or like the easiest way or something.
Oh, okay.
But what I did was I just picked the last guy you get because he has the most combat experience. And in the later levels, he fights with you. So you want someone that's good at fighting.
Yep. I did the same thing. But so we always have the capture up of our gameplay while we're doing this, just so if it helps us remember some things. On one of the levels I was watching you playing, there's one part where I'm like, I don't remember that in the level at all. So I guess you got the wrong path to go down. And there's like a bunch of exploding barrels that you were trying to get through.
Yeah, I remember that. That's the lava level, right? And it's you come up to a fork and they're like, go with whatever your gut says or something. So I just went to the right.
Oh, okay. And I think with that one, I picked Dio. Honestly, between Dio and the Randall, those were the 2 I always went with every single time.
And I bet Dio told you where to go.
Yeah, she told me to go left, so I went left.
Yeah, I guess this is as good a time as any to get into the actual gameplay too. So
True. Yeah.
We've been harping on this story stuff for so long when it's such a small part of the game.
It is. It's frustratingly too small.
But no, I mean, this is just Star Fox. You know, it's like any flight combat game. It's mostly on rails. And then for a few sections in the end of the game, you have free movement.
Yeah. And the whole thing is like with every other game, there's just enemies that shoot at you. You just got to shoot them down and dodge their bullets. Which, as my same complaint with Einhander, I often couldn't tell where their projectiles were. And I didn't know where they were coming from. So I never dodged them because I just couldn't see them. So I just got hit a lot.
I would just like wildly move around the screen if I couldn't tell how to dodge them. And most of the time it works.
Oh, nice. And as always, we both played on easy. I assume you played on easy.
I saw that there was a difficulty called auto, which is interesting. And I looked that up and it automatically changed the difficulty based on how you're doing.
Oh, I was wondering what that meant.
I'm assuming what it does is it looks like, because, you know, at the end of each level, you get a rating based on how you did. So I'm assuming if you get better ratings, it makes it harder. And if you get worse, it makes it easier.
I kind of like that system.
I like that too. Yeah. I mean, I wish I would have played like that, but I had to go with easy, especially with this kind of game.
Yeah, I didn't want to risk it. And especially with not knowing what it was. I'm sure they probably explained it in the manual and I just skimmed over it. And then you go through a level and you get a mid-level boss, and then you go through the level some more, and then you have a final boss at the end of every stage.
And there's no way to heal on the whole level.
There's no way to heal.
But, so, do you get 5 continues on every level?
I was going to ask you about that, because I used up one, and then later on I died again, and it was back down to 4, and I was like, wait, when did I get an extra continue? I used one already. So if they give you 5 per level, that's amazing.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is, because I know that if you beat a level without using a continue, you get another continue for the next level.
Oh.
Because there was one level I did where I had 6, and I was like, huh. But I'm pretty sure that
interesting.
You get 5 no matter what.
Oh, okay.
At least on easy. I don't know. It's probably different on the higher difficulties.
Oh, I for sure imagine that if you go to like the hardest one, you get 1 continue or something.
But honestly, like for me and you to beat this game without much trouble says a lot about like easy actually being easy and wanting you to complete the game. You know what I mean? Like it was still tough, but it didn't feel impossible.
Yeah, I feel like almost every one of my deaths were just from boss fights. And it's just like with every other boss fight, you have to learn their patterns and their movements and what they're going to do and when the attack is going to happen. So it usually took 1 death to figure that out. And then I beat it easily the second time around.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's pretty much what it was for me too. The later bosses were the hardest ones, obviously, but...
You thought so? Like, I felt like the game was getting easier as I went on. Which one did you have the trouble with?
So the final boss was pretty annoying. It took me a couple tries, not a lot, but it was, annoying.
So I beat that boss without dying once, but I had 1 bar of health left. So if I got touched one more time, I was done. I was sweating so much trying to dodge, like my life depended on it, quite literally.
So the level where you're free roaming in space, I did die a bunch, but it was because I kept hitting into the ship, which is an instant death.
Yep. I did that with the giant fish.
I did it with both of them on that level. So that's the only part that was annoying. To be fair, that's on me, not the game.
Well, kind of not on you. For me, it was the fact that the text went by so fast that I didn't read what I was supposed to do. Or like while you're trying to play the game, text will pop up on the top of the screen and they'll give you like direction on what you're supposed to do. And if you're not paying attention to that, you're lost. And with the fish one, I flew into his mouth. I'm like, maybe there's something in the mouth that I need to hit. I wasn't paying attention and I died.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, both of these are pretty straightforward. It's like you can see the thing that you're supposed to attack. So it's, attack that. But
yeah,
at the end of the day, none of the boss fights are like truly like super hard.
No, not one bit.
There's plenty of other games we played where we were miserable, so this is nothing.
Another one that was kind of difficult was that squid thing in the lava caves.
Yeah, I think I died once, but it was just because I had to get used to dodging like the laser things or like the shock wave things or whatever.
Yeah. And that goes back to like your perspective in the game and how the camera moves with the ship. And so it's like, am I low enough? Am I high enough? I don't know where I'm at. And that's what kills me.
It's like you said, you pretty much just die once or twice and then you're like, oh, okay, I know what to do. It is what it is.
Yeah. But what's nice is in the 3rd level, they switch up the game completely and you get on the hover bike and you can't fly up or down. You're just stuck on the ground at that point.
That was my favorite level. I thought it was so fun.
Yes, it was. It was simple, but like there's enemies flying up from behind you, shooting at the ground. So you got to dodge like based on where their bullets are hitting. And it was just, I loved the fact that they just out of nowhere switch it up on you.
I would play a whole game like that.
Well, and going back to Star Wars, it was kind of like a pod racer in a sense.
Not a pod racer, the speeder bikes.
Speeder bike, that's it. Yeah.
But even to the Star Wars thing, that boss I was talking about on the space level is totally the exact type of ship from like the first few Star Wars movies.
Oh, is it? I've never seen Star Wars, so I don't really know all too much.
You've never seen anything. Come on, dude.
I'm catching up.
There's like the big like giant ship that has like Darth Vader in it, and from like the first movie, they have like the slow panning shot of it. This is clearly meant to like be like that.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I could see it even whenever I got into that level and I saw that ship. I thought Star Wars, even though I never really saw the movie.
Well, there's even little ships that come at you on that level that look like TIE fighters. So like,
I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
it all looks like Star Wars. So, which is cool. I mean, it's essentially anime Star Wars. Like, I'm not complaining. I just, this game wears its influences on its sleeve. That's for sure.
I agree. The one thing that worried me when I realized it was that there was no autosave feature. And it wasn't until I was after level 3 that I realized, I haven't saved this entire game.
You got lucky.
Because I'm just so used to that.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it in the menu, so I kind of figured it out, but you would think it would save after each level.
Yep.
It almost feels like that's what the story moments are for, is for you to save.
Yeah. It's just weird. It's like every game that we've played so far, I feel like has that as an auto feature.
Even if it doesn't have an autosave, it would have like, as soon as the mission ends, it would say, do you want to save?
That's what I mean. That's what I meant by auto. Like either whether it does it for you or it gives you a reminder and asks you if you want to do it. Oh no, I guess Driver didn't do that either. You had to manually save on Driver too.
Yeah, but I would say the majority of the games that we've played, it'll pop up every once in a while and be like, do you want to save?
Yeah. But I mean, like you said, this wasn't difficult anyways. But as a safety thing, I would have been screwed if I would have lost all my continues and had to start over from the beginning.
That would have sucked so bad.
Yeah. Not like it would have taken me, another 40 minutes to catch up to where I was.
True.
So it's not that bad.
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much covered this whole game already, huh?
Yeah. I was a little bit concerned when you go into when you go into the men's private room and you see that poster of the lady up on the wall. And then when you meet Dio and she's in the women's room, you go into the women's private room and there's like, she's in the shower. And I'm like, oh no, please don't go where I think we're going to go with this game. So luckily they avoided that.
What do you think it was going to be? Some romance?
It's something because like with the poster and the thing is like, okay, you're clearly like going for the masculine side of this.
Yeah, it could have went creepy really quick. You're right. I will say I accidentally skipped a couple cutscenes.
I was going to bring that up next. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to advance the dialogue and I just skipped the whole cutscene. I'm like, cool. All right.
Another thing where we always complain about not being able to skip the dialogue, and this one is a problem because you can accidentally skip everything and not know what you're supposed to be doing.
Well, it's like you were saying, the dialogue is so slow and, it's broken up into sentences. So naturally to me, with modern games, you think, if I just push a button, it'll go to the end of the sentence or it'll skip to the next part of it. But no, it just skips the whole cutscene if you push any button at all.
Yep. I did that on the level with it's before you go into the meteor and you gotta destroy those electrical turret things that are providing power. So I skipped the dialogue, didn't know what I was supposed to be doing on the level. So I just flew around shooting anything I could and I just beat the level purely by guessing.
I'm almost certain that I did the exact same thing. Because I remember just starting that level and I was fighting the regular little turrets that were shooting at you, not the ones that were powering it. And then I died. And then I was like,
okay.
Probably have to kill those ones.
Yeah. Which like it's the way you shoot too, you can shoot your main weapon and your like homing weapon. So I was just holding the X button and then just tapping the square button, which was your homing button. So every time I got a lock, I'm just constantly tapping the square button while holding X. And just a barrage of bullets flying all the time.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the way you have to play this game in general, though. I mean, anywhere you go, you're just holding X. So
yeah. The final mission, and this is the one that is very reminiscent of Star Wars, is you do like a... what is it called for in Star Wars? Like the crater run?
I forget what it's called, but it's when he's going into the Death Star.
Yeah. Going down in between and like fighting all those turrets. You have to do like this little cave run thing of like going through this tunnel system to get to the center of the meteor, which I don't know if you thought this too. I felt like it was very comparable to Crash Bandicoot 2, the ending. You have those electric balls with these electricity going through it that like go around. You got to dodge those. It's like, while you're in that one, you're chasing someone. This one, you're just flying, but it just side by side, it could have been spot on to the same thing.
No, I guess you're right. I didn't even think of that.
It wasn't until I saw the electricity that it made me think of Crash Bandicoot 2.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I was basically just trying to finish the game. So,
yeah, I get that. So, what did you think about with the dialogue? I know we cover this a lot, but did you think that they were going to be giving you more options throughout the game?
You mean like choices of things to do?
Yeah.
I did think there would be more moments like the one where you have to choose the path that you want to go down.
You mean while you're flying?
Yes.
Okay.
But I didn't think there would be dialogue choices, really.
Oh, weird. Because I did. There's always those times like so when we get Dio and you find out like she used to be part of a terrorist organization, and then they're talking like, oh, what should we do? Should we like have her in our team? I thought that was going to be a moment of, do you keep her or do you get rid of her?
I mean, that definitely would have been interesting.
Yeah. They do it the entire game of, oh, what do you think we should do? Should we go down this path or do this path? And it feels like this opportunity for the player to make a decision, but your guy just says, oh, we're going to do this. And it just ruins that moment.
Well, yeah, imagine if like you have to choose whether to keep her or not, and maybe she's evil, and maybe in the end she like fucks you over and you lose some weapons because you chose poorly, you know?
That is exactly what I thought was going to happen in this game. Like, I was expecting, oh, they're going to give me a choice and I'm not going to have her on because it just feels like a setup and she's going to screw me over at the end. Okay, I don't get that choice. But then I'm expecting that twist to be that she screws us over in the end. But then that never happens. I'm like, oh, like you're setting this up to be predictable, but then it just turns out that everyone's happy and friends together in the end.
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of feels very anime. Like everybody is truly good, even though they have bad pasts. They're good.
Yeah. And we talked about it enough. That would have given it more depth if you got to choose what you were doing.
Yeah, and I also just wish that there was more unique ideas in the regular gameplay, like how the speeder bike thing, because, you know, there is the level like the lava one that's based a lot more about moving fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's that part where you have to move really fast so the lava doesn't catch up to you. And then the final level has that part where you're really going up against all these environmental things, like things flying at you, things spinning. While I find both of those ideas annoying, at least there's something different.
Right.
And if they had more stuff like the speeder bike, like a new way to play or just a new twist, I think that they could have made this game longer and had all that stuff as well. As it is now, it's like they had their first few ideas. They did them all, then they're done.
Yeah. And even with the lava one that you talked about, setting up that level, they talk about how there's so many turrets on the ground and stuff like that. So in my head, I thought we were going to do like a stealth mission where you got to be sneaky and not get caught by turrets or something. And even that seemed like really fun. So whenever they say, oh, we found this underground passage, okay, cool. It still was unique, but at the same time, it's like, well, we could have done something different.
Exactly. Like they could have did things to mix it up. I mean, that's kind of the story of this game, right? They just could have did more in general with everything. I don't know. I just don't really know what else to say about it. Like we're kind of talking in circles a little bit where like from the dialogue to the gameplay, there's just the bare minimum being done. And while what's there is mostly good, it's just not enough.
Yeah. There's nothing more we can say.
Yeah. I mean, we've gone through all of my notes. So unless you have anything else to add, we can go ahead and hop into these reviews.
I am completely out.
To be honest with you, we talked about this a lot longer than I thought we would.
Yeah. I thought we were going to have to really pad this out.
Well, it kind of seems like once me and you have a common thing that we want to complain about, we just beat the dead horse until it's done.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we do this in a bunch of episodes. Like, what's another one? Tomb Raider, for example. You know, like, if we have something we both mutually hate in a game, we're just like, yeah, the whole time. Whereas, like, if I just hate it, like, I just tell you and we move on. But if we both hate it, we just keep going back and forth, saying the same shit over and over again.
Get the pitchforks.
But yeah, this had pretty mixed reviews. Overall, it looked like it was mostly in like the 6s or 7s, which, sounds about right, which we'll get to in a minute. But GameSpot gave it a 6.9 out of 10. And they said, the third person mode in Vanark, while slightly interesting at first, proves to be terribly boring and uneventful by the end of the game. During this mode, you have free reign to explore the limited quarters of the space station, but all that you ever really discover are mission briefings and story developments. This mode almost seems like as though it was simply thrown into the game to give it a bit more length.
Which we already talked about in great detail.
Yeah, it doesn't even really add that much more length to it. Like you walk for 2 seconds, then you move on.
Yeah, I don't know if this happened to you or if you even noticed or tried, but whenever you get Dio, if you go back to the lounge, and if Dio and the other dude, I forget his name, are in there, I went up to Dio to talk to him, I went up to Dio to talk to her, but then the other guy's dialogue came up. So then I went to the other guy to talk to him, and then Dio's dialogue came up. And like, why is the is something broken in the game where it's not letting me talk to the same person?
I don't remember that happening to me, but that is pretty weird, especially when you don't even do that type of thing that much to mess it up, you know?
Exactly.
But yeah, good luck finding this one. GameCritics.com gave it a 4 out of 10. And they said, in the case of Vanark, it is such an underwhelming game that as a whole it cannot shine. All the similarities to Star Fox, the graphical glitches, as well as the underdeveloped third-person perspective mode all add to a lackluster title. All told, a bit more fleshing out of the story, as well as the addition of more than the measly 7 stages to the game, and Vanark may have stood a chance of being the PlayStation Star Fox.
I could see that.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine all the other reviews. You could have pulled 5 more reviews and they all probably would have complained about the perspective mode.
Absolutely. It just makes total sense. It's kind of hard to ignore these things when you're playing this game.
But also they bring up the graphical glitches. Did you notice anything?
Yeah, I read that and I was like, I don't know. I guess the graphics don't look good in the third person mode, but I didn't really notice anything other than that.
Yeah, I don't think there was any glitches per se, just not looking decent. That's a whole different story.
I will say the frame rate felt a little weird during the walking around sections, but...
Yeah, but I like how they had the run button.
The run animation was pretty funny, by the way.
It was very funny, but it wasn't like Saga where it's too fast.
True. But yeah, I guess that brings us to our scores. Without repeating myself, I started this with the range of 6 to 7 written down.
Interesting.
This game does a lot of good things. It just doesn't do enough of those things. Like we said, that's just not fleshed out. It fits in with a lot of the other games, like the first in a series, right? Like Tekken, Hot Shots Golf, like stuff like that, where I just think this game needed one more to just cook a little more, and we would have been looking at an amazing game. But as it stands, I'm going to stick with a 6.5.
Wow. That is a lot higher than I thought you were going to go.
Well, dude, like we both said we didn't have a bad time playing this. Like I didn't hate myself for playing this. It wasn't like Magic Carpet or Invasion from Beyond. I got through it no problem. I didn't have that feeling where I'm like, I hate this shit. I need to stop.
No, I agree. In terms of Magic Carpet and Invasion from Beyond, since you brought those up, it's the fighting and the combat part of it is a lot smoother in this game, I feel like. The only main flaws are just everything else. The story, the actual game that should be there, but it kind of like isn't. It's like they completed 20% of the game and then shipped it when there's still 80% more to go. And I feel like that's just the part, like the fact that it wasn't that long to play, even though it wasn't that bad of a time, but it just felt like there could have been more. I was thinking of going more of a 5.5.
That's fair. I mean, we kind of do this a lot where one of us is like at a 6-ish and one of us is at a 5-ish and then we meet in the middle.
And that puts it at a 6, which is fair.
Yeah. I mean, there's not a lot there, but I do like what's there. I just wish that they did more. And I think that what's there could be improved in a lot of ways, but it's not bad. It's just not enough.
I want this game to be remade and done better. Add more stuff, add more content, add more story.
So this is week 2 of us giving a game a 6, and we have 4 other games to kind of decide where to put this.
Oh, yeah. So we have Persona, Rayman 1, Bomberman World, and Destruction Derby. All it's sitting at 6. This is tough for me. Is anything sticking out to you?
I think this should go above Rayman, below Persona.
Interesting. Well, yeah, you clearly did not like Rayman at all.
It was too hard. It was just not fun.
I get that. I just like the style of Rayman. I think that's why I fight for it so much.
I mean, it's a beautiful game, and I love other Rayman games. I just didn't like that one.
Yeah, I don't think I can argue too much. I mean, I was going to argue for it to be below Rayman, but honestly, I think I just like the graphics and the style and the aesthetic of Rayman too much. But yeah, I think this gameplay is a lot smoother.
I mean, I would definitely agree with you saying that Rayman is a better looking game than this, for sure. But Rayman also doesn't take like a shot like how this game does. You know what I mean? Like this game is trying to be something more, whereas Rayman is just another 2D platformer with a minimal story. Rayman's a game that could have came out on the Super Nintendo, whereas this game could not.
I get that. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, so that puts Vanark at number 20.
Yeah, which I think even whenever I was looking at this list, I was thinking the 6 range was fair, or at least like around that. So the fact that it is sitting there is Good. Perfect.
Yeah, I have no complaints. I think the games in the 6s are mostly just games that didn't quite get it right, but there's a lot of good stuff still there. So for it to be in the pack with those, I feel good about that.
Yeah, completely agree.
All right, well, that is going to do it for us. Thank you so much for watching or listening. If you enjoyed this, please remember to like and subscribe as well as give us a rating on podcast services. We'll see you next week.